down, we do know when enough is enough, but stating it out loud is never easy. And I'm sure for some, there's still that element of, but I could be so, but, or there's the money fear. Like there's so much.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. Welcome back. I'm Sarah Box, your host of the No Labels, No Limits podcast, where we're on a mission to help individuals, teams, and organizations think outside the box and move beyond limiting beliefs. All so we can collectively create a more profound positive impact in the lives of others as well as ourselves. And we do this, as you know, by sharing accomplished and inspiring guests who have challenged their own limiting labels and beliefs to pursue and accomplish personal and professional goals. So our guest today, I think, is kind of extraordinary. She is very diverse in her background and experiences. So let me tell you a little bit about Mel McSherry. She is an international business and life guide. Mel brings this unique blend of spirituality and practical business acumen together, which then helps overwhelmed entrepreneurs or business women or business people in general carve their own paths to successful honoring their lives. So to get the connection between Mel and us. So growing up in a deeply religious household and maintaining a vegetarian lifestyle until her mid-30s, Mel's journey is very diverse. And it's the same as her diverse approach to coaching and guiding others. She has over 14 years experience in business development. She seamlessly integrates the spiritual tool of human design with traditional business frameworks, which then offers a holistic and transformative experience. So, folks, we're going to have a great time with Mel today. I actually want to talk to her more specifically so that we can learn about how we can harness spiritual tools for our business success. So I want to explore things such as integrating spiritual practices like human design and how that can enhance our decision-making, reduce stress, and basically improve our overall well-being on our own entrepreneurial journeys. So with that, let me officially welcome Mel McSherry to the podcast. Hey, Mel.
Sarah, how are you?
I am actually very well, thank you very much, and excited to meet you and introduce you to our podcast listeners.
Well, I'm so excited to be here, and I can't wait to see where this conversation goes and what I can share for your audience today.
I am always interested in where a conversation goes.
Right?
I know. I always have a plan. I was telling folks yesterday when I worked with them, they have an agenda. I said, I just want you to know that's plan A, and we'll probably be at plan C before the day's done. But I want you to feel like I do have a plan.
Yeah, I call myself structurally unstructured. I have guidelines, but they're not necessarily rules. It's just
right, exactly.
Boundaries. Yeah.
They help me, once I know what they are, it's like, I don't know how we'll get there. We will get through all of it, though. So
absolutely.
Back on you. Can you provide just a quick overview of what human design is and how it works so that myself and our listeners can be familiar with what you're talking about? Like, let's have context, as you and I like to have, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So human design is a tool that combines quantum physics, astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, and your chakras. And what it is, I like to call it, is your operations manual. It's your energetic blueprint. It shows you your how you're meant to process information, how you are, how much energy you have throughout the day, as well as where you receive your information and where you should process it. And what it really helps with is just give you that deeper understanding of who you are, as well as the vernacular when it comes to your how, because so often, especially as entrepreneurs, we get very pigeonholed. We get really attracted by the cookie cutter. I know for myself in my journey, I always said, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I was the perfect student. However, when I found my human design, or actually to reframe that, when human design found me, And I read my chart for the first time. I cried because all those things that I was fighting against, because I thought they were quote unquote outside my comfort zone, or I just needed to strengthen it, were really just not meant for me. And the more that we can truly understand who we are and our how, our why is pretty natural. And Simon Sinek has that covered brilliantly. What is less talked about is our individual how, and realizing those steps and having that foundational operations manual so we could always refer back to ourselves first before we go outside for help.
So you said when human design found you. Mm-hmm. How did that happen?
So it happened twice, actually. The first time was in 2017. I was exploring spirituality. As you mentioned, I grew up in a very religious household. I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist religion. And as I got older, I wanted to explore spirituality more. And one of my goals in 2017 was to learn how to meditate because I could not shut my brain off for the life of me. And through that 6-month meditation mastermind class, my instructor just mentioned human design. And so I quickly went on the internet and I just got my type. Human design has many layers inside of a chart. If you've ever looked at one, it looks pretty crazy. I always call it the ultimate onion of personal development because you got to go in layers. But one of the main areas that you probably have seen on Instagram or social media is your type. There's 5 different types. So that's your overarching theme of who you are. And just by reading my type, I just went, oh, yeah, no, that's me. Yep. Got it. Cool. But nothing really excited me. Nothing really lit me up. And I just continued on my path. And then it found me again in 2020. And this is where it stuck. I went to a spiritual retreat, which happened to have been 2 weeks before lockdown here in Chicago. And we were in lockdown for a very long time here. But unbeknownst to me, that was happening right after this retreat. And I was in Sedona with some lovely people. And one of the participants there was really passionate about human design. So they went through my chart a little bit more in depth. And that's where I cried because it was just this all the things that I was struggling with and all the things that I was trying to just grasp. All of a sudden, it just gave me that deep breath of, it's not me. I'm not lazy. I'm not stupid. I'm not a misfit. This is just how I am. And I walked away from that retreat completely shifting everything. I let go of my traditional business coach that I had invested a ton of time and money in. And I went back to me and really started honing in human design in my personal life. I started sprinkling it into my business in 2021. In 2022, I came out of the spiritual closet on LinkedIn as just being one of my gateways to working with me. And now it's one of my foundational practices, not only for myself and my business as well, but also for my clients.
So what has been the biggest, that's very in depth, in 2017, then to 20 and then going deep. But what do you feel like if you were looking back, contrasting like how a day or a week is now compared to then? Mm-hmm. Is there a noticeable difference, and how could you describe that for us?
Oh, absolutely. So my type is called the projector. I am the guide, I am the facilitator, and I have very short spurts of energy, roughly 2 to 4 hours a day. I was acting as a generator, which has copious amounts of energy. So before I found this out, my day would be, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would hit the ground running. I have my to-do list. I have my action steps. I would initiate. I'd go for the ask. By the way, the strategy for a projector is wait to be invited. I was not doing that. I was just, being a bulldozer and just doing as much as trying to be as productive as possible. And I would stay up till midnight, 1 a.m., wake up at 5 a.m. and do it all over again. And I thought that was such a badge of honor as an entrepreneur. Like I'm putting in the work, right? And when I read my human design, and especially when I started implementing it, the shift is completely different. I still wake up early because I'm a morning person, always have been, always will be. However, now I start my mornings off however I see fit. Sometimes it's reading. It's always coffee. That's a non-negotiable. It's quiet. But I honestly do not start my day until I feel called. And that's usually my morning hours are my most productive. Well, I actually am stepping away from using the term productive. I love the term profitable because it's mentally, emotionally, and financially. So how I look at my to-do lists now, back in the day, it would be very structured. If it was on my list, I had to do it, and I would punish myself if I didn't. Now, when I wake up, I look at my to-do list and I check in on my energy first. How am I feeling today? Do the things on my to-do list match my energy? If not, what things on my to-do list do? And as other elements of my chart have shown me, I'm a hermit, which means I have to rest. If it's a rest day, then I have a rest day. Did that happen overnight without guilt? Absolutely not. It took practice, but it was those little things that have made such a big difference because this is about sustainability. And I don't think we talk about sustainability too much in entrepreneurship. It's about hit the goal, 10K a month, not what can we do to truly enjoy this crazy journey and stay motivated and satisfied and peaceful and all of those beautiful things. So my days and my action steps have drastically shifted since human design found me.
It tapped you on the shoulder.
Actually, it kicked me in the butt.
Well, that's so interesting.
Tried to tap me on the shoulder, and then I was like,
you ignored it?
What's that? And then, yeah.
It's the old, I'm talking.
Exactly.
It's interesting because I'm in a mastermind business, entrepreneurs, actually. I think of those folks, I'm the one with the biggest team. We're all very small. But it's come up twice in the last month from different people about human design. And someone says, well, of course, you know what that is, Sarah. And I says, not really. And then, it's like, do I have to study one more thing? But right after that, I heard from you like, hey, how about being a podcast guest? And I'm going, hello.
There it is.
Stop that. So anyhow, I just thought I love synchronicity like that. I do. I pay attention to it. It makes me laugh. So now when you work with folks, I would imagine, I'm going to make some assumptions here, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you made that shift and you started working the way you work and you put it out, you came out of the closet as human design. I love that. What did you notice about the people who sought you out since you weren't pushing and you were receiving?
First of all, every single client that I have had since releasing that stress upon myself has just been nothing but enjoyable and in a way to where I no longer step into a session slightly worried that this is the day they find me out. This is the day where they're like, oh no, they don't know what they're talking about. Because I was taught and I was so diligent in keeping to my framework, and always just bringing them back to it if they tried to go too far. Now I am here for them. I know them because we've done a reading together. I know their chart and I'm a facilitator. I'm a guide. So there's no stress on me. I don't put any stress on me because this isn't about me. This is about them. And so just the energy of those sessions, sometimes they are really business, practical focused. Other times I'm just holding space for them because they've just had a really rough bout. And I love that duality of it. And I love that I don't feel guilty doing it that way because I naturally would do it anyway. And my past mentor would kind of get on me about it because my clients weren't producing fast enough the results so other people would want to work with me. So when people are now ready to work with me, first, they come to me when they're ready. I don't pressure them. I don't do the follow-up. We have coffee or we have an intro and we stay in touch. And I trust that process for myself. So when they step into our space, they're fully ready. It's no stress. It's no pressure. They're financially ready. They're emotionally ready, all of the things. And that already creates such a clearer path for us because they're not trying to produce results so they could, what's the word I'm looking for? So they can not determine, but they can quantify why they said yes to me. Instead, they trust their process as well. So the whole energy is just so much lighter. I always have enjoyed being a business owner. I've always enjoyed what I've done, but this is just such a relaxing, I can just sit here and be myself and that is more than enough and exactly what they needed.
Yeah. It is a stress reducer. I loved how you said you practice it. Because I know, and I haven't done, I was going to say interior design, human design. I think it's a bit of interior design.
I mean, it's kind of internal design, so I can see the eye in there. I got you.
Thanks for giving me that pass.
That is it.
But you know, that whole rest day when it's a day to rest, and I have those sometimes, I'm thinking, you don't have time to rest, man. You've got this whole thing you're supposed to be prepared for. You're not prepared for it. You got to prep for this trip and that trip. And I'm thinking, I don't have it. I don't have it within me. There's no point of trying. I mean, it's not, I can do it, but there's no point because it won't be what I'll end up with anyway. Trust that you will get what you need when you are ready. And it is a scary thing, but when you practice that, then you go, oh, that worked out great. Even better than had I stressed about it.
Yeah.
It starts reinforcing that, which is, I think when we talk about like this, it almost sounds like you're being lackadaisical but I don't believe that's the case. You have enough experience, right? You have tons of background. You don't need to keep pressuring ourselves or yourself or whoever's listening to keep being better, better, better. It's like you are enough right now.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love. But trust that.
Exactly. And that's what I love about human design is that in those hallway moments, I call transitional moments hallways because we always talk about the doors of opportunity, but hardly do we talk about the hallways in between. And the hallways are my sweet spot. I love a good hallway. And one thing that I love about human design is when we are in those hallways, and we're going to go through many, many, many of them throughout our lives, it's less of a WTF moment and overwhelm and I don't know what to do to, oh, I know I am a hermit. I know rest. I know I am a generator. I have copious amounts of energy. So where can I put my energy? It gives you more of that quote unquote structure without the action step list. And
okay, let's talk about the difference when a generator and a hermit are working together.
Oh, so a generator can be a hermit because a hermit can be part of anybody's profile.
Okay.
A profile is another element of your chart. Those are two numbers that you typically see. People say, oh, I'm a line 2 or I'm a line 6. That's called your profile, which are two major characteristics inside of your chart. So I just had one of my clients is a generator and a hermit. And I always love when there is that juxtaposition inside of people's charts because it does teach us that we are so much more than our type. We are so much more than just this. And so what I love to tell generators who have hermits in their charts is to say, look, because you get to rest and you have this much energy, what that actually does is it gives you permission to say, where does that energy get to go today? So rest doesn't always mean sleep. Rest for generators typically means, okay, step away from the thing because you've mastered, generators have a stair-step style of success. So they consistently hit plateaus. And in those plateaus, they get frustrated. And those are pings that they have mastered everything that they need to master in that moment. So they need to celebrate, they need to recalibrate, and then they need to wait for that next step. So inside of that waiting period, it's what can I master? Where does my energy need to go? Is it cleaning? Is it painting? Is it what have you? Because everything is connected. And I want more and more people to understand that business development isn't a sole entity that you just work on over here. It's incorporated in everything. So if you do something that lights you up, that gets you excited, that does make you more profitable inside of your business. And so learning that everything works together and how you are inside of that entire system just helps you, again, be more profitable mentally and emotionally as you're waiting for that financial to follow.
Yeah. And I think I need to go through the process because I don't want to mix different things. But it's interesting to me that juxtaposition can also make someone, when they're feeling it or experience, kind of be like, WTF, you know? Like, what? I feel lost. What's happening here?
Yeah. I feel lost and I have all this energy. So what do I do? Well, let's look at your centers. Let's move. Like, again, it gives you that guidance that you can still customize and play in, but it also just helps you feel like you're not crazy.
And that's so nice.
It's so nice.
Okay, so let's get precise. Like, let's give some examples of some of the individuals, entrepreneurs you've worked with, and some of the shifts they've made, so that perhaps some of our listeners or me will see ourselves in those shifts and go, I get it. Okay. Can you share some of that?
Absolutely. So probably one of my favorites are my Manny gens. So there is a type called manifesting generator. And it's a combination of two types, which are manifester and generator. And again, talk about juxtaposition. Pure manifestors are the initiators, are the magic, are the ones that give you the ideas and then walk away. The generators then take those ideas and run with it, right? So the fact that both of those are in your system gives you a lot of energy. And those are my multitaskers. Those are the ones that are multi-passionate. And those are the ones that cringe every time somebody tells them to niche down. One of my biggest ahas with my Manny gens is it's not about niching down. It's about finding the through line. And guess what? It's you. So anyone who knows you knows that you talk about multiple things at the same time with the same amount of passion, and you can do it sustainably, which is chef's kiss. So embrace that. Stop trying to listen to, this marketing coach or this person who says, who's your avatar? Pick one offer and stick to it. Nay, my friend. What is it that you want to, what lights you up today? Is it a group work? Beautiful. Let's do group work. If you're like group work and maybe some solo, let's do that over here. And it gives them that permission to consistently play because they can. And again, that deep breath from my managers is just priceless because they are never told that. They are told that they have to hone in, buckle down, do all this stuff. And they literally feel crazy. They're like lightning in a bottle. Manny gens especially need to get their energy up because they're lightning in a bottle. And so if they don't do that, something's going to give. And it's usually their health. It's usually, things that could be detrimental to them. So instead of trying to laser focus, open up that bottle and let that lightning just go because you can.
It's interesting, that whole niche down thing. I think the value in that for me isn't that you're actually niching down, but that it actually asks you to reflect on, are you trying to do something just because the market says you should, or because you feel you should? You want,
absolutely
calling you, I guess is how I say it, And so I think that's a good takeaway from folks, that just because someone who's very successful says you have to do this, maybe you should think about it, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to be true to you, because I could show up super false and you're going to know it even without not knowing why you know it, and you're like,
absolutely.
So, yeah.
And human design gives you it is the science of differentiation. So it's how are you, and every Manny gen is different as well. I'm always hesitant to just talk about a type, though that's the best way to talk about it because there is so many layers. But there is, what seems to be kind of happening with human design is what I call, it's becoming very Instagrammable, which means they take one piece, which is their type, and then all of a sudden people are running with it instead of looking at actually who they are as this type. And with Manny gens especially, it's that aha of, I knew this. And it also gives them the information on how to customize people's feedback, whether they can take it in and customize it, or whether they can just bless and release and say, thank you very much. And so it does give us that naturally filter system of the feedback and the noise and all the things that we hear from others, whether we ask for it or not. And how can we take that look at ourselves and transpose it as we see fit?
How have you seen self-awareness through the human design filter affect how people are able to be more, affect people's mental stability with all the craziness that's going on? And also like the media messages saying, freak out, freak out, freak out.
Right. It builds trust, honestly. We lose a lot of trust in ourselves when we are so inundated with everything that we think we need to do in order to create what we want. And the more that we spend time with ourselves, which is uncomfortable for most and scary. And it's beautiful that 2020 for most of us initiated that without our permission. But it gave us that insight to, oh, I don't like this, or, oh, I do miss this, or, oh, this doesn't fit. And so that has been such a beautiful gateway for people who want to continue to sit in that, but with more of a guideline, or again, a manual, than just kind of bobbing along and going, okay, that's great, or just fully ignoring it because it's not something that they feel comfortable or even confident that they want to sit in. So I say for awareness especially, it builds such a trust in, no, I know this about myself. And yes, we sometimes still say yes to things and then we go, nope, see, yep, nope, definitely not it. Because we got to test it. We're human. But at the end of the day, we can always come back to, no, I know this. I know how to say it. I trust my process. And that in and of itself is such an alleviator and a silencer of everything that's around us.
Do you work with this like with teams of people? So if you had an organization that had maybe 8 or 9 people in it, 10 people, and they all wanted to understand themselves, but then also themselves as a unit, do you do that kind of work? And if so, what's that look like?
I do smaller. Usually I either do founders and co-founders or business partners, so they learn how to talk to each other. Or I do groups of, I try to do no more than 5 to 7 people because it is so in depth. And how that looks is I walk them through 3 specific areas in their chart, because from those areas, not only do they get a collective sense of their energy, their communication, their authority, their strategies, then they see, because they're in the group with everybody else, how they start to automatically fit together, as well as understanding naturally each other's boundaries or their starting points or stopping points. And all of a sudden they understand how to support each other without having to go, how can I support you today? It's just, they just see it. And so it creates such a fluid sense of communication, of support, as well as gives you that deeper understanding of the person that you're working next to, without going into anything super duper personal per se, but you know the energy, the essence of this person. And therefore that just naturally weaves itself in the day to day.
Yeah. And when we can do that, I think it's powerful, because we're basically allowing people to be themselves, but also figuring out how the pieces can fit so that people aren't depleted while still working together to accomplish this bigger objective, as depersonalized.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, especially for those of us who were born female, we just, what can I do? How can I help? What can I do? Instead of what can I do? And what can others do with me? Like it reframes that differently. Instead of just, picking things from the checklist, you really understand which ones are meant for you. And not only do you understand, but the person next to you also understands not only themselves, but you. And then it's no longer people just saying yes to things because they can. It's saying yes to things because they should. And it is their best use of who they are, their energy, and their process.
Do you find that folks, when they first learn this, are a little reticent to say what they, quote unquote, can't do, shouldn't do for themselves, because they don't want to be like kicked out of the group? They don't want to be like, okay, if I say no, I'm not going to be promoted or whatever it is.
Yeah. There's always those growing pains, especially when we are reframing and retraining ourselves from Lord knows how long of trauma training environment, so on and so forth. So it doesn't happen overnight. In fact, the person who brought human design together says it takes an average of 7 years for you to fully integrate your design. And I also love that because it gives us that slower pace. So yes, when you start reframing and when you start standing up for yourself, there are definite moments of, oh shit, but however, you also learn that when you're in the right room, it's never looked twice at. it shows you what rooms you really should be in and who the people are around you. And I always tell my clients, yes, it's important to know what you want. I think it's just as important to know what you don't want, because you see those red flags a lot faster when you go into it with that being a little bit more to the forefront, instead of, you just see the beauty of it. I always kind of relate it to dating and relationships. Like if you just want to go in to get married, you're going to have a different set of tactics. You're not going to try to look for the other red flags. Whereas you go into it as, I have an intention, but let's see where that goes. But I know my non-negotiables. As soon as those come up, you instantly know whether or not you're in the right room. So yes, relationships shift. I've seen clients lose relationships. I've seen clients leave jobs. I went through a divorce after I really found myself. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it really does hone in and solidify your support. So it helps you leave those rooms, whether somebody ushered you out because this is now who you are, or you chose to leave because you realized this just isn't the best for you.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, say you had been ushered out, however you want to say it, understanding yourself post that event might help you go, oh, I really see that through a different lens now.
Absolutely. It gives you that pausing point to go, okay, now what do I know to be true? Why was I so happy there? Or was I ever really happy there? What wants can you take from it? And what not wants can you take from it? So when you move forward, you have that reframed, and it's centered now around you, not around an expectation or what you think is the next best step for you.
That's a very empowering place to be, though, versus being like, I was exited, so I'm a victim, versus my time was up there. I'm not sure why I didn't notice myself. Right? Not sure why I was the last one to get it. Because we're not. I had a boss, a supervisor, when I was like 24, 25. He was so brilliant. But anyway, I really didn't want to be doing the tough stuff. I was working with Teamsters. I was a little intimidated. I was pretty young. He says, you got to let this guy go. I says, no, I'm not doing it. I like the guy, but he had some trauma. And I thought, I'm not sure if he's going to blow up at me. He goes, he's not going to blow up with you. He's not even going to be surprised. I go, how do you know? And I go, Bill goes, he knows. Watch, let's go. He's going to feel really good about himself when we're done doing this. And I'm thinking, he goes, you don't have to do it. I'll do it. So we walk up. It's very relaxed. There's no projection on my boss's part. And he's talking to this guy and he says, I think we're at that point. And the guy goes, thanks for calling it. Right?
Yeah.
And I walked away and I went, what was that about? And he goes, it's not about making him feel bad. He knows. We've gone through our processes. This is not a surprise to him. I didn't just dump this on him. And now he gets to leave and he gets to say we made him leave and he didn't fail. He goes, but you don't have to decimate somebody. And I went, wow. But that moment, I still remember it today of being so nervous. And he goes, it'll be fine. But
because deep down, we do know when enough is enough, but stating it out loud is never easy. And I'm sure for some, there's still that element of, but I could be or there's the money fear. Like there's so much in
right.
that.
There's all the layers, right?
There's all the layers. But at the end of the day, when you have been asked to leave, or you have asked to go, that reflection time really does just give you more information, no matter your type, no matter your profile. There are certain profiles that will be their life. Martyrs are meant to experiment and experience. They have to, but they've never made a mistake in life because they need that information. So again, if you know that about yourself, of like, no, it's going to be a trial and a wicked ton of error, bring it. So how can you reframe it to, I'm not a failure, but what did I learn? Okay, this ended. What did I learn from this part? Okay, let's try again and do it this way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Before I let you go and we wrap this up, there's a couple of questions I have left. One is, would you talk a little bit more about hallways? Because that's intriguing to me. And I thought it was deeper than just passing it by. especially because you love hallways. Something tell me more. So can you talk a little bit more about hallways and how folks can recognize when they've entered a hallway?
Yes. Yes. Hallways are much more than just like a quick sprint from one door to the other. And again, I think that's why we try to push ourselves when we're in them, because we don't understand the beauty that they are. And so I always recognize as people in hallways, they're in a transitional period. Either they have been in corporate forever and they're thinking maybe of being an entrepreneur, or they've been in business for 2 to 15 years and they want to elevate their business, or they want to quote unquote burn it to the ground and start again. You're at that point where literally nothing feels profitable mentally and emotionally. And when we have those moments, again, we are taught so traditionally to just pivot. And I'm so sick of that word, but it's not that we can't just and turn right. There is a process to it. And the more that we can enjoy this transformation from one door to the other, not only do we recognize that door of opportunity when we come to it, we know what it looks like because we designed it. We know what we're going to do inside of it because it's ours. And it gives everyone and gives yourself, again, just that trust and self-confidence of, I know this about myself, or this version of me. I have an amazing client, Dee. We call her past self Deirdre. So we love Deirdre. Absolutely. So what pieces of Deirdre are we keeping as Dee steps forward into this space? Because we do evolve. We're constantly evolving. And if you're trying to do the same thing and expecting different results, we all know that's the definition of insanity. Whereas if you know what you know to be true, and then have someone to guide you through that transformation or that hallway process, then all of a sudden you let go of those pieces of you bless and release them because they were fabulous and got you to where you are. And especially with human design, you see where you just went to the wrong, quote unquote, wrong side of the coin, and you can bring it back and really reframe things. So when you step into the store, again, not only do you have more trust, more validation, more confirmation of who you are, you're aware of your how, and you just have more of that sustainable, beautiful energy. So when you hit another hallway, you already kind of know the process and it's not as scary anymore. In fact, it becomes exciting because you know you're now emerging into that next step for yourself.
Yes, and then there's more than one hallway. Correct?
Absolutely.
It's all that thing like, can we just be done with this? Is this a one and done? If I get through this hallway, do I ever
Fortunately not. I wish I could be the bearer of good news at that, but no, I'll be 40.
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
It'd be boring if all you stayed as the same. At least my personality or my preferences, I don't like the hallways to be overly painful just because I'm ignoring what I need to do. But I also wouldn't want to be in the same room forever.
No. And honestly, even when we get to certain ages or stages of our design or of our, of our cycle or system, yeah, things are going to slow down a little bit, but you are constantly learning and you are constantly evolving. So the hallways might shorten, or they might be, like galleyways instead of hallways, but there still are those transformational moments where you do need to take that time to celebrate, to recalibrate, and then to move on.
Sweet. So I know you have a free gift for our listeners, which is your virtual coffee. Talk a little bit about that. And also, if someone signs up for one of those, what that experience is like.
So virtual coffee with me is honestly a hall pass to pick my brain. I know that human design comes with a lot of questions, whether it's human design specific or just, all right, this is my thing. Or just to get to know me. Maybe you have other questions for me, but I always love for people to get to know me and vice versa, because this is such a personal experience and I want you to feel comfortable with me. I want to feel comfortable with you. And there are no expectations. There's no sales pitch. There's no nothing. Part of the questionnaire when you sign up is there anything in particular you'd like to bring to the table today? And that's where we start from. We start with you because this is about you, and we just get to know each other and move forward from there, however that looks.
All right. So Mel, we will put links to where you are available online,
Beautiful.
social, all that. But where do you have a preferred place that you think people should start?
I am a big LinkedIn nerd. So if you are on LinkedIn, that is my preferred social media platform. I do still share things on Instagram and Facebook, but LinkedIn is definitely my home space. I also have a website, melmcsherry.com. And to sign up for that virtual coffee, it's just virtualcoffeewithmel.com.
Well, that's pretty easy, straightforward.
Right? I try to make things as accessible and as easy as possible.
I know. I just start thinking when people go, we could do this, and then I go, okay, what's the simplest way here? Can we start with the simplest before we make it complicated?
Keep things simple, because that's usually when things stay, as kosher cool as possible.
If they need to change, they can, but we don't need to build a high rise when all we wanted was a little tent.
I love that analogy. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Mel, I'm going to give you the final word to send our listeners off with today. Go for it.
Oh, man. Well, first and foremost, I always love to remind people that you have full say on how you create what you want. And by understanding and just honoring what you already know to be true, because you already know so much, start with that first. Yes, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the information. Yes, it seems easier to just instantly ask for help. But I do want to, quote unquote, challenge you and just sit there and go, okay, I'm feeling this right now. What do I want? What do I not want? And what aligns with what I already have? And if you want to learn more about human design, definitely reach out. But you have everything inside of you to answer the call of your soul. If you just take time to find it, it'll be there for you.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/no labels, no limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.